My name is Erica Lewis, and I am your host for today. And in this episode, we are going to discuss the shocking news that President Joe Biden has withdrawn from the U.S. presidential election race and is endorsing his VP, Kamala Harris. The big question is, can Kamala Harris beat Trump? Does she have the popularity to win? Is this a death sentence for the Democrats? Joining me today are our queens. We have Marlo Layson, TV and film producer. We have Athena Gardner. She is a CPA and wealth coach. And then we have Vanessa. Vanessa she has a master's in public policy, and she's a general contractor and entrepreneur. And last but not least, we have Lindsay Vertner. Lindsay is an international mindset and coach, as well as a speaker. Hello, ladies. Thank you for being here today. So, it's going to get hot in here because the comments are popping already. I see we have, what's her name? Natasha. We're going to get to you, girl, because I see you are live and in charge and you are ready today. But I just want to get us warmed up here and get your insights, ladies. And I'll start with you, Athena. How do you feel about Joe Biden's decision to step out of the race? How did you feel about that yesterday?
Well, I would be lying to you if I said I was surprised, because I remember the last show we talked about it. I said, listen, they are setting this up for him to peacefully exit with that COVID diagnosis. And also there were threats to his campaign, right? Because remember, the Future Forward Fund was threatening to withhold that $90 million. And one thing I do know about these presidential elections is that you always have to pay attention to the money, because the money is going to dictate what people do. Not only that, he was projected to lose, because as it stood, without Trump even winning any other additional places, his projected wins, he already had the 271 votes. So I think the Democrats are like doing a Hail Mary. They were like, listen, if we stay the course, we're losing money and we're losing this election. So we have to do something. And what they needed a win. They needed to try and see if they can recover, if they can save this campaign. And who more to save the day than a Black woman?
Oh, all right. All right. Now, Marlo, I do want to jump over to you. And with that question, what were your feelings about that? And as a journalist, film producer, what were some of the things that you noticed with him stepping out of the race? How did that get to you about that?
So I think, again, no surprise there, right? I think, but this is, Joe Biden, I think, exhibiting who Joe Biden is. He is a lifelong politician, but he's also someone who has always kind of kept his feet on the ground in terms of an elected official. And so I think he saw the tea leaves. He understands what politics is. George Clooney wrote an op-ed, "It hurts me more than it hurts you," sort of thing, but I'm not giving y'all no money unless y'all get this together. And at the end of the day, you need money to run a campaign. I've said it before. You cannot run in the United States. It's sad, right? But if you don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in a bank, you're not going to win a national election. It isn't possible. That's the way that it's set up. I think the other part is, like Athena said, right? Black woman got to save the day. But also the choice, if the Democrats stay the course, right? The Democrats will wake up a part of the population that is not politically inclined. Let's not forget, she's also half Indian. There is a huge South Asian population in this country, and she is going to awaken them. I didn't know that Mindy, I don't want to say her name wrong, so I'm not going to say it, the actress of Indian descent. She was not politically inclined prior to Kamala Harris running, when she ran against Joe Biden and subsequently became the vice president. So you're going to see a lot of South Asian people coming out. You're going to see a lot of excitement from that side of the room. If y'all think the AKA is about to be out here strolling with those chucks, she is definitely going to ignite people that you didn't know had any political leanings as well. So, I mean, if the Democrats do this right, and she's not American Black, her dad is Jamaican, but in America, people tell you you're Black. I'm sure Athena will tell you that America has told them that they are Black. Jamaican is kind of, they are Jamaican, but in America you are Black, honey. That is the way it is. So y'all can say what y'all want all day. She ain't Black. In America she is. And I think that it's going to ignite younger people, and hopefully this will be exciting. I don't know if she could beat Trump. And it's not a popularity contest, but we shall see. We'll see what unfolds.
Unfortunately, I think in some regards, it is a popularity contest, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Vanessa, I want to come over to you with your knowledge, you have a master's in public policy. What is it that you noticed about Biden stepping down? Was this something you were expecting to happen, or were you shocked when it did happen yesterday?
I definitely wasn't shocked. I think it's the same thing that, Athena was talking about, is following the money. I think what I'm most concerned about is, I think if you just look at how Biden was operating, I'm just confused as to why the Democrats would just select him to be the guy. But with the trajectory of Trump's campaign and how popular and how, big his base is, I think they knew they were going to lose. So I think the transition for him to step down is radical. I think it's something, we don't see often, not in my lifetime at least. And, I think it definitely is shaking up a lot of things media-wise. I think it'll bring a lot of attention to the party. And I honestly think that Kamala, even though I have my back and forth with Kamala, but I think she stands a better chance to win than Joe Biden.
That's interesting. Lindsay, how are you today? Lindsay, let me hear from you. What were your, as a coach and a speaker, I know you deal with anxiety and people being nervous about different things. How did you react to yesterday? And what do you think will be the onset of people being anxious about this upcoming election?
I do think that this decision was a little bit behind the 8 ball, if you will, because we've seen him doze off. We've seen him mumble his words. We've seen him not be able to perform in the public eye already in the recent years. So this is a decision that should have been made a long time ago, I think. And, a lot of people are anxious about the switch and so late in the game because Trump has a cult following. And with this decision, whoever we are behind on the Democratic end, you have to stand united. Everybody needs to be together. We have to agree this is the person that we want to go against Trump. Because like I said, his followers, they're cult-like. They will do any and everything that they can for Trump to win. And then you have all these people that are going to vote against her just because she's a woman, just because she has a Black in her bloodline, whether you consider her Black or not. She's half Jamaican, half Indian. So there you go. You have people that will vote against her just for that reason. And so we have to figure out, how are we going to be united? And I think I saw a comment where they were like, oh, Democratic Party was already like, wait, you put Kamala, or we should put Kamala, and you're already going against each other. It's already showing division on this side. And so that is just increasing the anxiety of the American voters.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, from my perspective, I don't think and I know I'm going to get some backlash from women about this, so sorry, ladies, but I just don't feel like this is a good role for any woman to take on, because having had the opportunity to travel internationally at extended amounts of time, you have political leaders in different countries who don't take kindly to women being in leadership roles, especially when it comes to politics, especially in countries where women don't have any say in anything. And with her having to sit down with world leaders of diverse backgrounds, many men are not going to want to sit down and have a discussion with a woman about foreign affairs. So with that, Marlo, let me get your insights on that with world leaders and what you think Kamala would be able to achieve with sitting down with world leaders, and if she'll be able to get her point across with men dealing with international affairs.
I think other Western nations have had female leaders and currently do. And I think that obviously not to the degree that America is in everybody else's business, right? The UK is not in everybody's business. Germany was not in everybody's business to the extent that the United States does when it comes to foreign affairs. So I think that with that respect, as the United States has taken on this role of big brother, I think that it will come to question with some of these other countries. However, as the vice president of the United States, she is getting a lot of exposure to these leaders. Some of these leaders, while she's not in every room, some of them are accustomed to her being in some of the rooms some of the time, right? So there is a little bit of ice-breaking presence that's already there. So I think that will ease itself out. I think more of the homegrown misogyny is more what you worry about, right? Because who do you select as a running mate? With the politics, the social politics, the gender agenda, like there are so many agendas in this country that she has to be voted into first, right? Like she first has to be selected. First of all, Democrats have to get it together and decide that this is going to be the nominee and negotiate who will be her vice, right? Yeah. That's the first step. After that, the reintroduction to her and the American people, right? Us re-meeting who this woman is, who's kind of been shadowing the president for the last 3 3/4 years, right? So I think there's a lot. I think that the global anxiety will wane because there have been women leaders before that were from global elite powers. So she's not going to be an anomaly in that way. But we shall see. I'm just interested in the summer of Black women ain't shit, because that's what we're moving into. That's what we are. But that's what I am having anxiety about, Lindsay. Can you help me with that?
I want to take it over to you, Vanessa. Again, with your experience in public policy, do you feel as if we know enough about Kamala and if she has displayed enough knowledge and experience within her role as a VP to step into a role as a nominee for the presidential bid?
Well, I'm going to reverse a little bit. So in terms of, I think we've seen Mexico elect their first woman president. We've seen other nations that are progressing also elect very, women president. So in terms of her being qualified, I think she's qualified to be president. If I'm being honest, half the white men that were elected in our history were not qualified. And I think Kamala, whether you like her or not, when you look at her on paper, Kamala's sharp. She's extremely sharp. She's beat out. In the state of California, she's time after time done what she had to do to rise. And now she's the VP. So, she's definitely sharp. She's educated. She's well-spoken. She is just on paper, I think she's more advanced, definitely, than, when you look at someone like Donald Trump, regardless if you love him or not, he lies. He doesn't talk clear. It's amazing the people that we have let run this country. And, and so when I look at Kamala, if we're just looking at her on paper, she's definitely qualified. So I think, if we're not in a position to start moving forward, to see, women as presidents in high-powered positions, then we're not progressing. Because, even when you look at Black women right now, Black women are the fastest growing entrepreneurs. Our incomes are doubling. We're growing faster than white males in terms of the income, which is, I think, a reason why they're rolling back some of these things like diversity initiatives. And, because when you look at Black women as growing entrepreneurs, we are growing, our income is growing, and we're really on fire. So, in terms of qualifications, I think that Kamala is very much so qualified. Do I agree with all of her policies and the things that she's done in California here? I do not. But like I said, I would prefer Kamala over Biden and over Trump. I think that she would be better for, I think that she's better for the Black community than those two, in my opinion.
Athena, from a financial from a financial point of view, how do you feel like this will, do you think Kamala is a good fit from a financial perspective? Because there's been word out that there was a fundraiser for her and they were able to raise X amount of dollars for her overnight, pretty much, and maybe in 12, 13 hours. Do you think she's a good fit from a financial aspect?
Well, looking from the financial aspect, do I think that Kamala can stand to run this race and will be the choice for president? I would say yes. The reason why I would say yes is because in the Win with Black Women, that famous Zoom call, they were able to raise over $1.5 million in a few short hours. Act Blue, who was also a small donation base, was able to raise $27.5 million in 5 hours for her. I have family members who text and said, okay, I can finally send my Democratic campaign contribution. They did not send the usual money that they would send because Biden was running. So I think that we're seeing that she's going to be able to be good as far as a fundraising standpoint. And then especially she's galvanizing her female base, her women base, her Caribbean base, which I'll touch on that a little later, to galvanize and raise that money, right? The one thing that is supporting her, even though people have issues about her ethnicity and how Black she is, and she's Caribbean, and I'm gonna touch on that soon because I've been reading the comments.
That's my next set of questions.
What I know about Caribbean people is that we will stand for each other regardless. So she will be able to raise from that base. What I also know is that there was I think the Biden-Harris campaign had around $270 million with $96 million left, right? If that money does not go to Kamala, they would either have to forfeit that money or they won't be able to have full use of it. So the reason why I think she's definitely going to be the presidential candidate is because, as we know with money, they're not trying to give no money back. So they're going to have to, all right, we have this 96 million. It has to go to Kamala in order for us to keep it. So that's why you're going to start seeing, and it's already happening, you're going to start seeing all the other potential presidential candidates. I think Gavin Newsom already came out in support of Kamala. You're going to start to see everyone push Kamala forward because they have to for the money to work.
Okay. I just saw a comment that I want to piggyback on. But before that, if you are just tuning in, welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we are helping you get your money together. But today we are talking about President Biden stepping down from his presidency. If you want to know when we are going live, please make sure that you text Queens, that's QUEENS, to 87948 so that you can receive notifications about when we go live. That's Queens with an S at the end at 87948. And please do not forget, Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. You can tune in Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock by searching Fly Nubian Money on Spotify to catch up on all of our empowering discussions. Now, if you are a queen and you want to grow and get your money right, you can go on over to flynubianmoney.com and try all of our financial resources and get involved with some of our courses. Like I said, today we are following up. We're having a deep dive discussion on President Biden stepping down and endorsing his VP Kamala Harris. Now, there was a comment that said they are willing to accept a female in leadership, but not Kamala. And Lindsay, I think I'm gonna start with you. Why do you think people are so set against Kamala? What is it about her? Yes, here's the comment. I don't have any problem with a woman or Black woman being president, just not her. What is it, Lindsay, that you think have driven people to the edge about Kamala?
I think a lot of it stems from her inconsistencies. She's had some policy shifts on her stance on things, but we have to remember that people grow. If we didn't grow as human beings and be able to change our minds, then what are we doing? So, I mean, it's only natural for maybe she had an opposing view 20, 10, 15 years ago, and she's had a chance to talk to people, to experience things, to learn and educate more and shift her stance on things. So I think some people are a little bit shaky about her policy shifts. And then, like I said, other people don't care about anything else but the fact that she is not a white woman. Let's call a spade a spade. There is still sexism and racism very much alive in America 2024. Okay, it doesn't matter that we aren't in slavery times anymore. There is still plenty of sexism, plenty of racism, and there are people that will vote against her just simply because she is not white and simply because she is a woman.
Okay. Now, Athena, I want to pivot back to you because you made an interesting point about her having Caribbean ancestry, and I want to talk to you about that as a Caribbean woman. Why is it that you feel like the Black community has not embraced her as a woman of color, as a Black woman? Why is it that you feel that way?
This is a very much layered topic and conversation, right? Because I think most, especially Black Americans in this country, have an issue with Kamala because she has supported policy that does not support Black Americans in general, right? Or has not helped elevated Black people in this country. But she was a prosecutor. So that was her job. Her job was to prosecute and win cases, right? You guys would rather someone who has a history of paying sex workers and potential pedophilia with Epstein and grab women by the this and the that than to have an actual woman step into office. But I knew this would happen because women are often criticized, especially by women, even more so, than to be supported. As it pertains to her ethnicity and her background, her father is a Black Jamaican man. He was born in Brownstown, okay? Saint Anne, Jamaica. Her mother is of Indian descent. They met at the Afro Association Club at the university they went at, right? So she is of mixed parentage of Jamaican and Indian heritage, right? In Jamaica, we do have an Indian population. They're usually called coolies. I have some in my family. We don't really care so much about race in Jamaica. It's more a class thing. But she is considered a Jamaican Indian heritage, right? She's an American because she's born in America. That's her nationality, right? For those of us who have passports but weren't born here, on there it says your nationality, right? Your citizenship, your nationality, and where you were born, right? So my citizenship is American, but my nationality is Jamaican. So I think people need to learn how to. There's ethnicity, nationality, and race are three different things.
Correct.
Right? So let's put that out there. The other thing I want to say, and this is the issue I have with Black people in general, is that yes, within our own group we have factions because people always want to be. Somebody always have to be on top. We always have to create these hierarchies so other people can feel important, right? So we have FBA, ADOS. I'm Caribbean, I'm Nigerian, I'm African, I'm this, I'm that, I'm Kunti Kinte, whatever. What I can appreciate about other groups is that even though they have their own issues too, because trust me, a Spanish person from Spain don't think they're the same as the Spanish people in South America now.
Correct. That is very true.
Okay, but when it's time, are we doing something right now? We trying to run a play? Let's run this play, and we'll work that stuff out on the back end.
But we can't do
that. That's what I can appreciate. Why can't we do that? Why can't we just run the play? All right, women, we have our own. We have our own issues. We don't always support, because in my opinion, a lot of women don't really support women empowerment. They just want a more comfortable seat in the oppression. But that's another conversation. Why can't we just this the play? Why can't we run the play? The question about whether she's qualified. Okay, maybe if there was another person running on the other side, I could see that. But this is Trump. Was Trump qualified? I know, listen, Trump, and that's why I said a lot of Black women, and I know Lizzie about to touch on the anxiety, be prepared for the scrutiny and the nonsense, because they're going to tear apart because she's a woman, because she's Jamaican heritage, whatever, because they're going to find a reason. This is who you're going to have to choose from. This is who is going to be appointed. The money lining up this way. So you either getting behind her or you're not. And that these are the choices that we have right now.
Vanessa, I want to skip over to you. How do you feel about that with regard to her lineage and her ethnic background? Do you think that's going to have a big play in it? And do you think that it is going to deter or get the black vote?
I mean, I think Kamala will secure the black vote better than Biden was on the trajectory to secure it. My background is I'm actually Indian and Black, but my father is from Alabama, and I was raised predominantly with my Black family. So I think the issue with Kamala, and I've never felt like I wasn't accepted by, Black people. I'm Black, so that's really all that I know. My mother's side of the family is Indian. So, I know Indian cultures, and, I go to obviously some of my family events and experience, but at the end of the day, I have a Black experience in the world. Even spending time, my childhood in Alabama, which is, Selma, Alabama was very segregated, even for me as a child, and I'm 40. So I can remember only going to an all Black school. And when I moved to the North, I remember my eyes were big. It was like the first time I saw white people in a classroom. So I feel like with Kamala, she's went to Howard, she pledged AKA, she's her policy, she's raised money for HBCUs. I think, I don't know if there's an identity issue or if it just serves her politically to sometime sway and say, I'm representing more of my Indian side, and then I'm representing more of my Black side when it's convenient. So I feel like for, Black people, I think that it's hard to trust you if you're leaning one way and the other. Like, I think it's important for you to identify. If you're Black, you identify as Black. And that's fine if you have other cultural background. But at the end of the day, it's, are you with us or are you for us? And so for Kamala, I feel like, to be a sitting senator, to be an attorney general of California, to get where she is, the path, I'm sure, isn't going to be perfect. She's ruffled some feathers. She's passed some policies that people disagree with. She went on the Breakfast Club and talked about how she smoked marijuana, but yet she, imprisoned people for marijuana. So, there's going to be a lot of things that we can look at her with a fine tooth comb and say, we don't like this. But I think the opposing view is, okay, well, do we like, Trump and this plan that they're trying to put together, Project 2025. So, I think it's a bit of, we have to be realistic. And has Kamala really, really done, is she a threat to Black Americans? Or is she more likely, can you negotiate with her to pass some of the legislation and the bills that we need passed? Is she more likely to get the things that we need done? Or are we going to, say, oh no, I think Trump is the guy? So, if you're asking.
And while you're there, I'd like to interject there, Vanessa. Do you think she will pick up where Biden has left off with different policies, or do you think she will have her own agenda to follow?
I think that she'll create her own agenda, but she definitely, because of the money, she's going to pick up a lot of where Biden, the policies and some of the things that Biden, absolutely. At the end of the day, the president is a figure person. And I always get borderline upset in politics because we go crazy about the president. But it's time for those local and state elections. Where are people? Because it would not matter if an elephant was running for president. If we control the Congress and the Senate, it would not matter. But see, people get so worked up for the president because they think, oh, this is the person that's going to, we don't live in a dictatorship. The Congress controls the money. You wanted policies. All those things get implemented through the Congress and the Senate. Those positions, they can, look at, people sit on those terms for, 15, 20 years. So it's just like, if we had the energy and the passion to get as worked up as our local and our state elections, then this wouldn't even be a big discussion. But it's a big discussion because we've now allowed Congress and Senate to sit there and create policies and give money to policies that don't work for us. So, but going back to I think that Kamala will pick up Biden's policies, but I think if she became president, she would enact new policies. I think she would be easier to negotiate to get things done for the Black community than Trump would.
Okay, Marlo, I saw your head about to just fall off your shoulder. You were nodding and nodding and nodding. I know you are an advocate and talking about, getting boots to the ground when it comes to grassroots and, getting your legislation involved, getting involved in your legislation at home. How do you feel we should be on the ground level? What should we be doing at home to affect what's going to be happening in Washington in November?
I think every woman that was on that Zoom call last night should be getting with her local chapter, and she should be trying to figure out what state and local level policies they are working on. They should be mobilizing in this moment at the local level so that the AKAs can be a thorn in her side should she be elected. They will constantly be pressing the button. What about us? Don't forget us. Remember who got you that money overnight, right? Remember who made you fly. Remember who put you on the map, right? I think that is what needs to be happening right now. Black people, we love to coalesce behind an exciting national figure and then don't ask for nothing. Everybody's mad, right? People were so mad because Barack Obama started to pass agenda items that were for the LGBT community. It's like, y'all think just because he black, he know what y'all need? What black people need in Omaha is not what they need in Dallas. It's not what they need in DC. It's not what they need in LA. It's not what they need in Louisiana, right? That is for us to decide and for us to go out and get these agendas passed. Black people, stop being excited about the presidency and then sitting there and being mad when other people who you got excited, because it all starts with us. People who you got excited about this candidate, they go and make their ass, and now you sitting at home mad. Get up and ask for what you want. Organize at home and have a state arm that is strong enough to reach out to a national arm and get stuff done. Time is out, right? We always need a boogeyman. That's what I love about us is we got to get a boogeyman, right? Trump in 2025, those are the boogeymen that we are now like trying to adjust, right, and figure it out. And like Athena said, we need to just run the play. Charleston White, he about to be a distraction. My nephew just posted some nonsense about how he, Charleston White saying he would never vote for a black woman. This is my nephew who feels like I'm the most capable black woman he knows, right? Reposting some crap that he isn't even fully comprehending because he's in the Charleston White cult, right?
But it's a distraction.
Listen,
to get issues.
No. So listen, blinders. I need everybody like this. Don't be in the peripheral getting distracted. We need to think about what we need, and we need to ask for what we need, and we need to demand it. And people need to know they're going to get voted out if we don't get what we need. Y'all got to stop playing. It's up to us.
I want to ask all of you in the chat, please give us your responses. For everybody in the chat, do you think Kamala Harris can beat Trump, and why or why not? If you are just tuning in, thank you for tuning in to Fly Nubian Money, where we help you with your wealth and your independence and growing. If you're just tuning in, we want you to know you can find us daily, actually, on Spotify. And if you want to know when we're going live, you can text us at 87948 and text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, and you'll receive notifications when we go live. And please don't forget, like I said, Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify, and you can tune in Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. by searching Fly Nubian Money. And if you're a queen that wants to get your money right, go to flynubianmoney.com and try some of our financial resources and courses. And while we are engaging the chat and getting some information from those folks, I want to talk to you, Lindsay, a little bit. Do you think that Kamala can beat Trump, and why or why not?
I think if she wants to beat Trump, we are going to have to unify. She's going to have to not just focus on the black vote, but she's going to have to focus on all the votes, the women, the Asians, the black, everybody, because like I said earlier, Trump has a cult following, and there are so many people, whether they like Trump or not, that will go against her just because of what she is. And so I think that if she wants to win, assuming that she ends up being the final pick for the Democratic Party, that she is going to have to mobilize all the voters and not just pander to one group of people. And I think that it's important that everybody that is able to vote gets out and vote, whether you're for Trump or you're for Kamala, it doesn't matter. You need to vote and figure out, okay, any vote that it is not for Kamala, assuming she is the final pick, is a vote for Trump. So don't go voting for the third parties and all of those little things like that, because any vote that you don't give to her will go to him. Because like you said, we have to start at the smaller level and grow the local, and not just worry about the 4-year presidential election, but be ongoing in the issues of the community and the politicians that we're putting into places, because they are moving up and all of those things. So she has the potential to win, but it's got to be a unified front to get her there, and she's got to pull out all the stops. And
in support of what you just said, in the chat here, we have Pamela Hart. She said, yes, she has been groomed as someone who can lead via her former experience and being mentored by Biden. I want to shoot this over to you, Marlo. Do you think Biden was a good leader for her? Do you think did he lead by example for her? Do you think she got a lot of good skills, tips, and tricks from working with Biden?
I think she did. I mean, I think, regardless of what side of the fence you sit on politically, I think everybody agrees that Joe Biden was somebody that was willing to negotiate. He was somebody who, when he was one of the members of the Senate confirmation committee that confirmed Clarence Thomas. And he years later said, you know what, I got it wrong. But I was looking through it, the perspective of then. And I remember when I was in class, I thought Anita Hill was on some BS, right? Watching that hearing, and I regret how I felt at that time, right? But I was a teenager. But I think that you can always look back and have a different perspective of things. I think that he's been in government for so long. He knew where all the bodies were buried, proverbially. He understood policy. He understood how to make it work. I think that people, I've said this before, people come to think that government is run like a corporation, and it really is not. It's very similar, but it's also very, very different. And you have a lot of people that were in the Trump administration who had no government experience privately talked about how frustrated they were working in government because it doesn't move at the pace of corporate change, right? It doesn't move in that same way. So I think from that perspective, learning how government works, he definitely was a good mentor for her. I think she learned from Barack Obama. She was close to him during that time. I think she learned on her own. I mean, we can't forget she was a member of the Senate, right? She, as the vice president, she is the foremost leader of the Senate, right? She's the deciding vote in the Senate. So I think that she's gotten a lot of experience on her own. I do want to push back on all the people. I think Athena mentioned it earlier. Her being the attorney general and a prosecutor, the prosecutor is supposed to send people to jail based on the law. Now, if she was circumventing the law and sending people to jail, if we can go back into her record and say, oh, all these people were sent to jail and they shouldn't have been because she did some type of fraudulent prosecution, I think that's different. But I think that the laws, when she was the top prosecutor in San Francisco and at the DOJ in California, she was doing what mass incarceration called for. She was doing what you do when you have laws that don't allow a judge to decide what sentencing is, and sentencing is predated by legislators, right? So I think that we got to look at stuff in perspective. We can't react to all the memes, y'all. I think I also want to play devil's advocate for one little second and say, the minute that Joe Biden dropped his message and saying that he would not be seeking re-election, all of the Republicans got on message, right? There's no defectors. There's no Republicans out here saying, oh, Joe Biden, I'm a miss. I worked with him. I really wish he was still in the race. Nobody is saying that. Nobody said it yesterday. Nobody's saying it today. Nobody's going to say it tomorrow. They're all on message. And I wish that the Democratic Party could just take some lessons from the Republicans and just see how messaging is, right? Their messaging is so sloppy. You got this person talking about maybe it should be Bernie. You got somebody talking about, I thought I saw Michelle Obama in the chat. Like, it's just like everybody.
Michelle ain't running for nothing.
Let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. Again, let's focus, right? I'm not saying you got to vote for a Democrat or a Republican. I'm saying you got to vote and be part of the process. I'm saying you got to pay attention to local elections. You were worried about Kamala being the prosecutor. There's going to be judges on the ballot where you live. Where you live, you probably have an energy company and you probably have had some water boil notices. You've been having some rolling blackouts. Those people make deals with government. Y'all need to look at big picture. I need us to be big picture people because our ancestors were big picture people. I need us to look at the big picture and see how we can really be effective in change and how we can really work to right this ship. That's it, y'all.
Okay. I do want to, before we go any further, I do want us to take a sneak peek at the press release that was released announcing that Joe Biden would be stepping down. And I would like to get your insight on that, ladies. It says, my fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescription drug costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. And while it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me re-elected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today, what I always have, that there is nothing Americans can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Vanessa, I want to jump over to you. That was a heartfelt I'm stepping down and thanks but no thanks. What do you think he was trying to get across in his stepping down in that letter? What do you think he was trying to get across?
I mean, I think he was just trying to highlight some of the things that they've done. One of them, I think, is advancing a Black woman, a very, very, very intelligent queen to the Supreme Court justice, which is, once again, why people have to vote at their local and state elections. But I think some of those gun safety laws and, just highlighting some of the things that they feel like they've accomplished. They've had a lot of pushback from in trying to accomplish some of those things. They tried to take the bump stops off the weapons and you had to get gun reform laws. But as Marla was saying, I think that the Democrats could take a cue from conservatives because they get together and they're on one accord. And when they want to stop something, they know how to stop it. So but I think the bigger issue is that the reason that Biden is stepping down is because they're withholding money, and they want him to step down because he doesn't stand a chance against Trump. So obviously, I think that's just a professional resignation letter, if you will. And I think him endorsing Kamala is ethically the right thing to do. So, I mean, in terms of that, but I don't agree that. I think that the reason why he's stepping down, in addition, is because I think he's handled our foreign policy horribly. He doesn't look strong. He's had a lot of pushback. He did try to add an adjustment to Obama's loan reform program for student loans. That just recently got, halted in the courts. So, I think he had a lot of things that he envisioned, and they just didn't get done. And so, I understand why he's stepping down, in addition to all the mental hiccups and just looking like he doesn't know what's going on half of the time. And
Vanessa, do you feel that the world is just ready for the Republicans to come back in? Do you think it's just time for the Democrats to just have a seat in the Republic? It's time people are ready for the Republicans?
No, I don't. But I do think that the Democrats have let it fester too long. I think they should have figured this out earlier, and they should have been honest about it. Because early on, I mean, the way just the foreign policy issue, when you see billions of dollars being spent going to foreign aid, fighting this, and then you can't get anything done. You can't get the student loan reform passed. You can't get anything done that we need done, but you can send money out to wherever. You get nothing done for the Black community. I mean, literally nothing got done that Biden said that he was going to do in office. So I think that they should have known early on that it was time for him to step down and put someone stronger. I really thought that they were going to endorse, Gavin Newsom, because I feel like he's the closest person. If you're not really, he is very left, but if you're looking at the way he debates, if you're looking at, he aesthetically looks nice, he's very, so I thought that's where they were going, but they should have just had all this figured out a long time ago. So, I mean, I think it's an overcorrection. The Republicans are overcorrecting things. Like when you look at Project 2025, it's extreme. So I think we have to get back to a balance. But once again, the only way to get to a balance is to make sure that our state legislators, our local legislators, it's just a chain. So it starts from local and it just keeps going up. So if we start controlling those pieces, then I think we can take the pendulum and put it back in the center. Because right now, I mean, you have extreme on, both ends. And the Democrats should have seen this. Okay, this is going too far left. We need to bring it back in a little bit. They just did it too late.
Lindsay, I'd like to hear from you. Do you think that with this change, with Biden stepping down and him endorsing Kamala, do you think that this is a way for the Democrats to revitalize their image?
It definitely is an option because, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we've seen Biden perform at not the most alert and present level. And it's like, it's only going to get down here from here. He's not Benjamin Button. He's not aging backwards. Like, he's aging forward. So where do you think we're going with this? So I agree with Vanessa that they should have made this decision, whether it's for Kamala or anybody else. They should have made this decision a while ago, because now we will be playing catch up in the coming months, trying to make sure that we are united like we need to be moving forward if you're on the Democratic Party. Because if you're on the Republican Party, as we've said many times throughout this show, they are united front. So we have to figure out, how are we going to put everything and stand as one? Because we will go further together than we are divided. So yeah, we gotta figure out what's going to happen moving forward.
I'm just going to pose this to the panel in general, and ladies, please chime in, and you all as well in the chat. Why does it seem as if the Democrats are always 10 steps behind? Why is it? It seems like it's a historical thing. Why is it they always seem to be playing catch up? You know what, Athena, I'm going to ask you that. Why do you feel like the Democrats are always 10 steps behind, and it looks as if they're just always just trying to play catch up?
I think the difference between the two parties is that the Republican Party does not mind stepping on toes or having an image that is not the best, while the Democrats, even though they have their own issues, always wants to portray like a clean, good image and want to make the correct moves. And you can kind of get stuck in trying to play the game of perfection. So I think that is the reason why sometimes they're taking late, because they're trying to formulate a perfect plan instead of just doing something and making iterative changes along the way, which seems to be the way that Republicans go about it. And it does make them seem like, one, either that they do not know what they're doing or they're not strong enough. It weakens their position because they do take so long.
Wow. Okay. If you are watching, you are at flynubianmoney.com, where we are talking about money, wealth, and legacy. But today we are focusing on President Biden stepping down from re-election. Again, if you are just tuning in, I want you to text Queens to 87948. That is Queens, QUEENS, to 87948, so that you can receive the notifications when we go live. Again, that's Queens, QUEENS, 87948. And please do not forget, Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. You can tune in Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. and you can search us by typing in Fly Nubian Money on Spotify to catch all of our empowering decisions. Now, if you are a queen and you want to get your money right or together, you can go on over to flynubianmoney.com and try some of our financial resources, courses, and more. Now, Athena, we were chit-chatting a little bit, and I want to stick with you and find out from you, just pose this question: what financial strategies should Kamala Harris employ to strengthen her campaign?
Well, I think that if I was in her campaign manager or the funds or whatever, I would definitely reach out to, they already have databases of people who are already supporting Biden, to make sure to reaffirm. First of all, they need to officially announce Kamala as a candidate first. Take over Biden's campaign, right? Keep the money in the funds, and then reach out, especially to the people who have more questions about her. And also, I do think she does need to reach out to the Black community and kind of reaffirm some things, or give some kind of commitment towards us, because I think that is what is causing a lot of this dissension between us as a voting bloc, because she does not have the entire Black vote, as we can see just from this chat alone, right? And especially because she is an immigrant.
She definitely doesn't. She doesn't have my vote.
She definitely doesn't have the vote already. And so she needs to give something, some kind of, student loans wipeout. There's so many things we could have: free state tuition, a fund set up for us. There's so many things we can have as an agenda for Black reparations. Also with women, I don't think she has all of women votes, and there's a whole other abyss that we can go to, but women don't always automatically support one another, and we're very critical, as we can see in the chat alone. The most critical voices will come from a woman when it comes to her, right? So she needs to really not take the position that she has won any of these bases, and she needs to make a good push. And I do think she needs to address the nation. She needs to, she wasn't able to do a debate. I'm sure there's more coming down the line, but she needs to address all of her groups and to make concessions for those groups if she wants those votes.
I personally have to be honest with you. I think the biggest challenge that people are having with her, it's one of the challenges I have with her, is that, again, my opinion, she has laughed her way through the last 3.5 years in her role as a VP. She has not answered any questions directly. And I personally saw her she sat on a panel, and I don't remember what it was, but you can find it on YouTube. And she referenced our struggle as being 20 acres and a mule. Not 40 acres, but 20 acres. So I think she's out of touch with being Black, with being considered a Black woman. And I don't think she's identifying herself as a Black woman. So yeah, I think that is part of the problem that we are really having, that Black Americans are having with Kamala as a whole.
I would agree with you.
I'm sorry?
I would agree with you.
Okay. How do you think she can revitalize her image on that? Because I mean, for me, I'm kind of set. I am a Republican. I am, and I'm kind of set about her. I've been set about her since the beginning 4 years ago. So what do you think she can do to revitalize her image going forward?
Well, all right. For those of people who are interested, because based off this conversation, I think people are making judgments about me. I am registered as independent. So let me just put that out there. And I do still think that we need to vote based on the party's policies and what they plan to do moving forward, because as I've always said, most presidents are usually just titular roles or political figureheads, right? It's usually going to be the other elements of government, lobbyists and influences that really push agendas forward. I think that Kamala, the burden of being Black, and Obama faced this when he was running race, because Obama also, his Blackness is what, both his parents weren't fully Black now. So he was also very much questioned, right, when he was running. But I think it's a less degree. I think her being a woman kind of makes it worse, right, as far as the criticism that she's facing. In order to, once again, I think Kamala needs to come and pick a side, pick a decision, and stand firm and be okay with alienating some people. I think Kamala's issue is the same issue the Democratic Party has as a whole, which is to, like you said, give these very vague answers and not really solidify what the agenda is going to be, to not alienate people or piss people off. And I think she needs to be able to communicate effectively what she stands for, her race, everything, what she stands for, her race, what she's going to plan on doing, what she plans on delivering, what she's taking from, Biden campaign. She's not necessarily has come off as likable, and that works against her because, and Lizzie, you can probably chime in. I remember I was in the Women in Entrepreneurship program with Cornell, right? And in that program, they talked about women in business or in certain positions that we face more scrutiny and have to be likable or have to, be liked or loved or have certain personality types, because that is expected from us from a gender perspective. Trump can be a whole asshole and nobody bats an eye, but she has to be likable because she is a woman. She has to be viewed as nurturing. She has to be viewed as charming because she's a woman. So she has a long road ahead. Trump still very much can take this race. What I will suggest to everybody is to still vote on policy and not necessarily the two people, because it's still not the best choices, but these are the choices that we have. These are the choices that we have.
Vanessa, I want to jump on over to you. Do you want to chime in on that? Do you think what do you think Kamala needs to do to revitalize her image with the people?
I think she could revitalize her image with the people. I don't think that Kamala's, has done anything worse than any white politician in the highest office has done. We've seen, people got behind Clinton and he passed the worst. That 3-strike bill really incarcerated a lot of Black people. So, and we're all, I just feel like we have to give, we have to give our people some grace. They don't know everything. I'm sure they had to bend a lot of things to get where they are, because it's not a straight elevator for us. It's, roads here, a steep stairway here. So, I think in Kamala's journey to be where she is, I'm sure she's done a lot of things that we all here would probably disagree with, but it's nothing different than any other white politician, and probably less. In terms of before Biden stepped down, I was absolutely not voting for Biden. I'm also a registered independent. I was voting independent. I think for Kamala, what will be the deciding factor is what financial goals she lays out. Inflation needs to decrease. One of the things that I think that the Conservative Party has is, when you look at their plan, they want to take money from the IRS. If you're a business owner, you don't want the IRS, constantly in your business auditing you, taking money. They're really focused on, reducing debt, reducing inflation, which are all great things in my opinion. However, when you look at the moral compass of the Republican Party, it's just like, well, why can't you just do those things financially? Because financially, I agree with a conservative policy. I don't agree with just giving money out to people who come here. That I pay taxes on. I don't agree with the high inflation. I don't agree with how the feds can just one day say the interest rate is 2 and then take it to 10. I think that the government has too much power in that sense. I think that the market should regulate itself. So I'm very much conservative when it comes to financial policies. So I feel like, but I can't just on a moral ground when I read Project 2025, or when I look at Trump's record, and when I look at where they want to take America, I just, I can't agree with that. But I feel like the Democratic Party needs to lay out a plan that aggressively addresses the financial issues. I think they give away too much money. They give away too much money when it's not warranted or deserving to the people that they give it away to. They don't give the money away where they should. They should be focused on very solid plans. Reparations is important for me. I think they should be focused on reducing, reducing debt, student loan debt. A lot of.
Vanessa, as it relates to reparations, do you think that is something that we will ever see as a people?
I think we will see it if we put people in Congress and the Senate. I absolutely do. But we're not going to see it if we just keep relying on the president to do it. No, you have to put when you vote for a person, what are your goals? You can have my vote if you will promise to bring reparation bills forth. You keep bringing reparation bills forth because you keep voting on the right Congress and Senate people to go in there. They will pass, but not if we don't show up to state and local elections. It will never happen. So yeah, I mean, it just depends on Kamala's her financial goals for America, and student loan debt is big, because I just feel like a lot of people that went to college, especially if I have a graduate degrees that I'm still paying on because I went to a very expensive school, and I mean, the interest rates are ridiculous on those. Like even if you make a lot of money, you pay that. So I mean, Obama did his thing when he did the student loan reform program. I think that was monumental. But it's ridiculous that we're giving billions of dollars, but you can't figure out how to take care of American citizens that pay tax. We don't want to give them anything, but then we go and give free money to people who come over here illegally. So it just really depends. The Democrats have to be more strict on their financial policies. And I think that once they do that, they'll have everything figured out.
Do you, Marlo, I'd like to pivot to you. Do you think the right now with the immigration laws are something that we need to pay attention to, especially with all of what's happening with the migrants and all the money that's being spent and allocated for them to have quality of life? And here you have many of our veterans that are struggling. You have average everyday families that are struggling. Do you think that is something that needs to change and needs to be the primary focus of the Democratic Party to make those changes?
I think that it should, but I think the Democrats' biggest problem is the all-encompassing, right? It's easy for Republicans to say, no immigration, no, gender wars. Like, it's very easy because that party's base is primarily white, primarily male. That is the predomination of the United States, right? So they kind of have a built-in base, and they don't have to expand to all these other issues because of who the primary base of that party is. I think that we have to decide what sensible immigration reform looks like, right? Is it the expense of building a wall? Who mans the wall? Who manages the wall? What's the infrastructure budget like for the wall? Because we got to maintain it if we build it, right? I think that sensible, not talking points, not what's going to get yahoos to wave their hands in the sky, what's not going to get Black people to be side-eyeing anybody that looks Latino, thinking that you're taking, these crumbs from my table. What is sensible immigration reform? Is it we completely close the border, right? Because this penny pinching, right? We're not going to let Haitians in, and we're not going to let Middle Eastern people in, and we're not going to let this particular type of Asian in. That's crazy. Like, I think we need across the board. I think something that people are talking about is the largest influx of people that are coming in right now are Asian. It's not Hispanic. It's Asian people that are coming in through the border, the Southern California border. So I think that we need to also put a true face on what is immigration. Because if we couldn't say that it was all the MS-13s coming over here to rape us, and it was actually the Apple engineers that are coming over here to make the phones and to program the phones, would it make a difference the way that we talk about immigration? So I think honestly, talking about who's coming over. That's important. Also, how do we manage it, right? Because you talk to cattle ranchers in Texas, or you talk to people in certain parts of Texas whose families live just south of the border, and that's been an open border forever and ever and ever, and how they live their life. They don't want a wall, right? So I think that it's such a nuanced situation, and I think that this should be a state issue. This should not be a federal government issue. This should be the federal government supporting with refunds and resources, but it should definitely be a state's issue. My state, Louisiana, sent National Guard to Texas for border security. I don't agree with that. But I didn't have a say in it because only 23% of the people in the state voted in the gubernatorial election. So I think that, again, I'm going to beat the dead horse of it's all local. I don't want my southern border is the Gulf of Mexico. If immigrants are coming in here illegally through the Gulf of Mexico, let's shore it up with the National Guard because we have that. But I think that us preempting from state to state, deciding, Virginia, they anti-immigration. Honey, where are the immigrants coming from? I need everybody to be sensible. I want people to think about things in ways that it makes sense. And I don't know that we are. Immigration, not my top ticket item because I think it's too convoluted and too complicated. I think the economy is important. I think home prices are very important. And I think the education department and what we do with that. Are we going about the demise of the education department, or are we going to have a true education reform in this country? I think for me, those are bigger, more important, more pressing items than immigration, because I know that can be solved in one or two pieces of legislation, honestly.
I think that unfortunately, I believe that immigration is a root to a lot of it because it's a spent extra resources. Housing has become an issue. Even though they're starting to close schools in certain areas, the classrooms are overcrowded because you have students that are being forced into classrooms, and teachers cannot educate the way they would normally educate. If you typically have 20 students in a classroom, and now you have 50 students, and then you have a language barrier, and then you have a challenge with, the child doesn't write in this language. They don't understand this language, or they can't count, or they're at a certain reading level. You're putting so much pressure on the education system to provide what they can't provide because of what's coming in. So I think we really do need to take a strong look at immigration and get a grasp on it so that, if people are coming in, they can come in and settle in without just kind of coming in and just being in, if that makes sense. For those of you that are just tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in to Fly Nubian Money. I have a great panel of queens here, and we are discussing today the pretty much resignation of President Biden from stepping down from the race. If you want to receive notifications about when we go live, please text Queens, QUEENS, at 87948. That's Queens with an S, plural, to 87948. And do not forget that Fly Nubian Money is now on Spotify. You can tune in Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. by searching Fly Nubian Money to catch all of our empowering discussions. Now, ladies, if you want to grow your money and get right, please go on over to flynubianmoney.com and try some of our free financial resources and courses. And there's a lot more over there. Before we wrap up, I do want to get one final question. And since we are a panel of queens, I want to keep it on talking about the aspect that Kamala is a woman. And do you feel as if that many Black women, or women in general, not just Black women, but women in general, will be voting for Kamala, or would like to see her in the presidential position because she is a woman? And Lindsay, I'd like to start with you.
I think we covered that already, that she does not have all of the female vote locked in, just as she doesn't have all of the Black vote locked in. And if you are Team Kamala, then you are going to be team all hands on deck, and you'll need to go through every single resource and mobilize all the voters in all the communities, in the LGBTQ, in the Indian, the Asian, the Black, the white, the female, the male, all of them. If you are Team Kamala, for her to have a victory over Trump.
And Lindsay, where can we find you and get some more information about what you offer in your services?
My name is Lindsay Vertner, international mindset coach and speaker, and you can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com. One more thing I want to quickly mention is that with anxiety increasing in many people around the U.S. right now, we want to make sure that we are practicing self-care. We want to make sure that we are staying informed, yet limiting our exposure. Don't just constantly consume all of the news 24 hours a day. Take some breaks and make sure you are using reliable sources on both sides, no matter if you're Republican, independent, or Democratic. We find reliable sources on all the sides so that you can get factual information. Make sure you vote. No matter who you're voting for, make sure that you utilize your right to vote. Focus on what you can control. And like I said, practice self-care and focus on the long term. Don't just come out every 4 years for the presidential election, but start engaging in the state and the local elections and figuring out who are these politicians that are impacting my community that eventually will move up to the presidential election. So again, my name is Lindsay Vertner. You can find me at liveafirstclasslife.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Lindsay. Athena, what are some last words from you and where can we find you?
Listen, I was going to come on here guns blazing because, I've been watching the chats. The chat has been getting disrespectful. I've been called a tether and I'm a Jamaican immigrant and all this other stuff. But I remember one thing, that I don't have to qualify for the unqualified, okay? So like the late, great Dr. John Henrik Clark, okay? I only debate my equals. All others I teach, and I have taught you on this episode. My last thoughts are this. I do think that we need to vote on policy. I'm very interested in seeing what Kamala has from a policies perspective and what her agenda is going to be. And I would hope that everyone keeps their mind open to what that is and then make your decision. Do not disqualify her because she's an immigrant. Do not disqualify her because she's a woman. Do not disqualify because she's not Black American in particular. Vote for her or not vote for her based on what the policy is going to be coming out from her camp. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and women's wealth coach. I believe all things women empowerment, even though the chat has not been very much empowering. As a woman, if you want to learn how to confidently manage your finances and live your best wealthy life, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, all social media at wewealthwomen, and listen to the We Wealth Women podcast. Lastly, do not let these political debates stress you out, raise your anxiety. It is serious, but it is not that serious to send you to the hospital. Decide who you're going to vote for and keep it at that. If you have friends or family members that are voting different sides, I do. It's none of my business. I'm just going to show up and do what I need to do for me. And that's what I suggest for you guys as well.
Thank you so much, Athena. Marlo, give us your last thoughts and where can we find you?
So I think I'm going to piggyback on Athena. Policy, right? Does the person that you're voting for, is the policy that they have set forward, do you understand it? Do you agree with it? Will it benefit you and your community? If that's the way that you're voting, I have no issue. I don't want to sway anybody's vote one way or another. I'm going to always do what I've been doing since I was 18, going in the booth with the information on the issues and making a decision. I think that voting for her because she's Black, because she's a Asian, a woman, I think that that's silly. I don't like to hear people say they're voting because somebody makes them feel a certain way. I don't think that voting is an emotional thing that makes me side with the colonizer Thomas Jefferson and feel like everybody shouldn't even have the right to vote, because those are not, when we're dealing with real issues, foreign policy, taxation, everything, right? Everything that comes across a president's desk. I don't necessarily want to like that person, but I want to know that that person made a pragmatic decision with more than 5 people's best interest at heart, right? And that I can respect in the president. Don't forget, the president is a figurehead. The president is not the most important branch of government that there is. There is also a legislative branch that people have been sleeping on. There are a lot of people that are older than Joe Biden in that legislative body. So if y'all are really concerned with age and people's cognition, maybe you need to look at your senators, you need to look at your representatives, who's going to run the treasury. That is very important. We talked about interest rates today. The president chooses the treasury director. I know that Bernie Bros and Joe Manchin has said something, and Elizabeth, all these people are chiming in. There's space for everybody in the administration. Everybody can't be the top dog. Everybody should want to be the top dog, but I think that take a deep breath. Like Lindsay said, don't let everything come in, but make an informed decision, because generations after you may not see the policy that you vote for in 2024, but generations that come after you will be the beneficiaries or the victims of said policy. So just, vote with that in mind. And if you're looking for me, I'm all over the internet streets. I create content that you can watch and read under my name, Marlo Layson. You can find me on Instagram. I am Olram Marlo. That's my first name backward, forward, _. And that's it for me. Y'all have a great rocking week and be productive.
Thank you so much, Marlo. Vanessa, what are your final thoughts and how can we find you?
I echo the other queens. Really vote on the policy, really start looking at some of the policies that these politicians are putting forth, and see if they benefit you. I'm a huge advocate, like Marlo was saying, of showing up at your local elections. I'm generally on the phone with friends and family telling them, hey, let's get out and vote. Vote for your governor, vote for your congressman, vote for your councilman, your state legislators, your local judges. I think those people are the most important. So, we give a lot of energy to this presidential election, but let's start giving that same energy to our local and state elections. But the policies, you have to vote on what policies work well for you. And at the end of the day, everything will be okay. Just show up and vote and do your part. Really show up and vote at those local and state elections. I'm almost inclined to say, if you don't vote in the presidential election, you make sure that you vote in every local and state election. And my name is Vanessa Gopal. My company is Winter Remodeling Inc.com. You can find me on the internet. I'm very easy to Google, VENESSA Gopal. And I want to thank everybody today that was involved in the comments, whether you agreed or disagreed with us. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for having this discussion. And hopefully, we were able to drop some knowledge on people.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. My name is Erica Lewis. I have been your host for today. And my final thoughts are, as a Republican, I am ready for a change. I grew up in a Democratic family, but in speaking to my mother here about a week ago, she told me that when my parents first got married, that they were registered Republicans, and then they switched over to Democrat. And I'm ready for change. I'm ready to see something different. It has been a long haul with the Democratic Party. There's been inconsistency after inconsistency. And as an American, I am tired. I am simply exhausted. Watching our tax dollars go to waste, watching inflation just pretty much take over our communities, and everyone from the four corners of the earth gets to benefit from our American dollar except Americans. I am really just simply exhausted in it. And one thing that I really would like to announce with women, it is very important not to make emotional decisions in this election. I know there are I've seen a lot of posting on social media where women are excited, like, she is me, I am her. Get to start looking at her resume, start looking at past interviews, start looking at different press conferences she's done. You don't want to make a decision based on voting for her or hoping to get the chance to vote for her based on an emotional decision that she is a woman. I heard someone say the other day that she is going to break glass ceilings. And while that may be, when glass ceilings are broken, the glass that's shattered has to fall down somewhere. And we just want to make sure that we are not underneath that shattered glass. I can be found at faithinTransition.com. My name is Erica Lewis, and I do thank you all for watching. Queens, thank you so much for sitting here with me today, and I really appreciate all of you. Thank you all for watching. It has been a joy, and we look to see you again, because I'm sure this is not the last time we are going to be having this discussion, because the election is about 3.5 months away, so I'm sure there will be more and more to talk about as it relates to our Republican and Democratic parties. Again, my name is Erica Lewis. Thank you all for watching. Vanessa, Athena, Lindsay, and Marlo, you're the best. Thank you, guys.